Hello, everyone. This is episode 6, and today we are discussing travel marketing with Mike Babiak. Mike is the director of marketing for the Now Travel Group, which is located in Toronto, Ontario. Mike is an experienced digital marketer with a long history of working in the leisure, travel, and tourism industry. We're going to explore how he has deployed marketing over the years to grow his business, what worked and what did not, as well as where he thinks the industry is going and how technology will shape.
You're listening to the Merged Marketing Podcast with David Louch and Jason Hunt. This is a show all about unlocking the marketing tactics and secrets behind everyday brands. Each week, we'll bring you expert commentary so that you can make better choices when it comes to growing your business. Thank you for spending time with us. Now let the show begin.
Okay, and we're live. Thank you for tuning in today, and welcome to this week's show. Mike, thanks for making the trek out to Rockwood today.
Well, nice to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing travel, obviously, which is a very popular topic amongst a lot of people, obviously. But we're going to be focusing specifically on how travel professionals can learn and grow their businesses online. So if you just want to share maybe a little bit about yourself, your past, where you're from, but ultimately how you got into the travel industry.
Definitely. Well, I've always traveled my whole life. My father he had a travel agency for about 30 years as I was growing up, and my mother has worked for Air Canada as a flight attendant. So I traveled my whole life all over the world. I went on a lot of flights with her. We went as families, and it's been a full life of traveling. And after I graduated from University of Guelph, I took a business administration and marketing course. My father had taken me into his company to assist with the digital marketing side of things. He was going through a major transition from his older travel agency, which was called American Express Travel, and he brought me on board to do essentially a full rebranding and complete digital overhaul of his company. At that time, he didn't have a website, didn't have any social media presence, even though that was when Facebook was first starting out, and just didn't have a digital footprint at all.
What year was that?
And that was about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah, 2010, around then. And he wanted me to come up with a brand new name for his company, create the website, and just like take care of all things marketing and digital at the company. So we came up with the idea of going after niche travel. And what niche travel is it's with the competition nowadays, with all the different websites like Expedia and TripAdvisor, hotels.com, there's too much regular consumers just going online and booking their own vacations to the point where it becomes a little bit more difficult for mom and pop travel agencies, the smaller companies, to compete with corporations of that size. So we decided to go after niche travel, and specifically at that time, it was destination weddings. That was a big niche that had yet to be really broken into at that time. And we decided that there was a big need for a destination wedding travel agency and company in Toronto, GTA, and in Canada in general. So at that time, we worked really quickly to come up with the name Now Destination Weddings. We worked 24 hours a day putting together the website, putting up content of hotels.
One second, Mike, for the name. Was it like we got to come up with a name?
We went through about 10 different names, and yeah, I think that was it. My father finally said, "You know what? You got to come up with a name right now." And I think that really stuck in our head, and we wanted to be, we wanted to come across as modern and cool, and we really liked the name Now because it didn't lock you into one segment. It didn't lock you into one niche. We were able to really, use that name Now for anything. So we have Now Destination Weddings, we have Now Travel and Cruise, we have Now Wellness, and it just worked. So that's essentially how I got started, and from then it just exploded. We quickly became one of the top destination wedding agencies in Canada.
Mm.
Our website was award-winning. We were definitely the top website digital marketing for destination weddings in the industry, and that's brought us to where we are today as still one of the top destination wedding companies in Canada, and that's essentially how everything got started about 10 years ago and brought us to where we are today.
What I found it interesting the way we kind of met. And correct me if I'm wrong, but was it a cold outreach from me to you, or were you seeking the services?
No,
it was cold.
It was a cold outreach. So we, as a traditional storefront in Toronto, we get digital marketing, SEO companies, SEM companies coming to us all the time. We're either people just walking off the street. Believe it or not, we got about 5 people a week almost coming in off the street asking if we need assistance with advertising, social media, Google. But yeah, no. Jason came to me, and it was definitely a cold call. I think you just came across us, but I'm not sure if I came across you.
I believe, if I can remember straight, because this was a few years ago now. We played some back and forth, played some phone tag, but I invited myself to come to your office.
Yeah.
And had a sit down, right? And so that's where the relationship started. And I think by having that sit down, and then I was able to understand, like, I know you were kind of savvy yourself in digital marketing, and you were already doing Facebook ads yourself, but it definitely wasn't your main focus. Obviously you're selling trips for destination weddings to Bermuda. What I mean?
Well, that's the thing. Well, when after a few years of helping my father with all the digital side of things, he asked me if I could step in and start selling more travel as well. And as an agency owner, like I am, when you're doing too much selling and you're dealing with too many clients on a daily basis, it can really become overwhelming to the point where you tend to neglect the other side of the business, which is digital marketing, your website, getting it up there, making sure your Google ads are going with the algorithms, staying up to date with all the changes in the industry. And I started to neglect a lot of those side of things, and which is why I wanted to bring Jason in, because I noticed the passion he had for everything. And you don't get, you get these people cold calling you all the time, and they're just kind of reading a script, and this and that. You can tell they're just trying to sell you on things. Yeah. Jason stood out because he didn't view it as I just want to close this sale and move on. He formed it as, let's work together. Let's put our two things together here and really create something great. And that's what really made him stand out to me. And we went from there, and it's a great relationship to date.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
By the way, and one thing I want to mention about that, and that is from trial and error. From myself, cold calling. I've tried that route before. I've tried all these other routes, and they just didn't work in the end. And what always persevered in the end was relationship building. Yeah. So I'm wondering, what does Now Travel Group do to differentiate yourself and show your passion for your business amongst your competition? What do you do differently? What separates you?
Well, it certainly comes down to making things more personal for our clientele, building that relationship, growing your online presence and reviews, and that does come from building those relationships with your clients. So, just like you said, you really want to make your clientele feel special. We deal with a lot of brides and grooms on a daily basis, helping them with their weddings, and there's a lot of competition now from when we started 10 years ago, and really the only way we're going to be able to compete with different corporations like Sunwing or some of the bigger companies that do what we do is by building those relationships. Yeah, building on that service. Quality over quantity versus some other companies that just try to get as many bookings as possible and really tend to neglect the service side of things. That's where we excel. The service, that's how we're able to be rated as the top destination wedding agency in Canada on Google and throughout the internet because of those relationships we build with our clientele and the service that we end up providing for them.
Interesting. Yeah.
I was going to ask, what separated him from all the other people that you get walking in on a daily basis, and I wasn't sure if it was just the sheer annoyance.
And
Oh,
sometimes the annoyance. I've had it before where at times the annoyance has worked
yeah. Oh, yeah.
because people see that annoyance as passion,
Hmm.
as perseverance, as all these type of things that you want somebody like that working for you,
Hmm.
right? But I think in the destination wedding space, it doesn't really apply. You can't really be that annoying person calling them back. Hey, have you pushed the wedding date ahead a couple weeks, or what's
Yeah.
going on there? Hey, we got to get this going and out of the way.
Yeah, well, that is true. You don't want when we're dealing with brides and grooms, and before we close that sale, uh, you're right. You don't want to overwhelm them too much. You don't want to be following up with them, every morning until they've made a decision. You have to respect their space.
Hmm.
You have to respect the fact that they're not. They have to talk about this with their family, with their friends, with their parents, because doing a destination wedding, it's not just a normal local wedding where you can just send out invitations and say okay and expect everyone to come. With a destination wedding, you have to do a lot of background work and questioning of your family and friends to make sure that this is a route that they would be able to go down you with,
Hmm.
because not everyone can just up and leave for a week
Yeah.
in 6 months time for your wedding,
Mhm.
and pay upwards $1,500 to $2,000 a person.
Mhm.
So there is a lot more patience you have to have with these clientele,
Mhm.
but maybe follow up with them every few days, maybe once a week if you have to. But with that said, the competition is so high now
Mhm.
that you do have to make sure that you're staying on top of them, because a lot of these couples, they're getting quotes from 3 4 different agencies, and you just have to we're lucky enough to be able to build on our reviews,
Mhm.
our reputation in the industry, and that tends to speak for itself,
Mhm.
which definitely helps us in the industry.
And I want to dive into a bit of the conflict between customers choosing to use services like Expedia versus the services of a travel agent. Obviously, people that are savvier now, the millennials that are growing up, they're just looking for what's convenient, and some of these platforms have made it so convenient just to make bookings online.
Mhm.
So maybe you could touch on why a travel agent. You know what I mean? Why should a millennial nowadays choose to book through a travel agent through themselves?
Definitely. Well, like you said, technology is at a point now where everyone is just able to go online and book their own trips. But it really comes down to I want to say it comes down to our expertise. And this is definitely why when I came to the company 10 years ago, why we said the only way this is going to work is if we go after a niche. Okay, so by niche I mean specific experiences in travel. So a niche can be destination weddings, it could be a cruise, it could be a safari adventure in Africa, it could be a wellness retreat down in Costa Rica. But really going after the niche segments that most people can't just go online and book on their own without a
Mhm.
little bit of expertise.
Yeah.
So that's why we went down the route that we did. We said, listen, we need to find segments that force clients to have to call us for our expertise.
Yeah.
So you're not going to just go online and book your destination wedding online without talking to a human.
Mhm.
You want to talk to people that have been to these hotels, that have done weddings here, and can tell you the pros and cons of certain destinations, certain hotel chains. That is why we went after the niche travel, because we know people have to call you to
Yeah.
get their expertise. So that's really the only way in today's day and age that you are able to compete with the Expedias, all those different websites today. I mean, if you're just going to go online and book a hotel on your own, then yeah, that's fine. You're probably okay.
Mhm.
But keep in mind that if something does go wrong, you're on your own.
Yeah.
You don't have someone to call the hotel for you a day before if your flight gets delayed.
Mhm.
You don't have someone to make sure that everything is ready for check-in, or maybe getting you an early check-in at that hotel if you happen to arrive in the morning.
Mhm.
You don't have any of that support. So definitely the niche travel is something that you should be focusing on in 2020 in the travel industry.
That's interesting. And kind of building off the next point I had, and that was, what's one word that you would choose to describe the current state of the travel and tourism industry? And when I say travel and tourism industry, I don't know if it's appropriate to clump those two things together or if they're very, very much different. But I guess a word or maybe a phrase from you on where you think things are currently at.
The one word that comes to mind is competitive. It's extremely competitive today. Like I said, 10 years ago, there was maybe 2 or 3 destination wedding agencies, that were really prominent in the marketplace. However, today's day and age, everyone, your sister, your mother-in-law, everyone's a travel agent, even working from home today, and everyone's a destination wedding specialist all of a sudden. Even though they may have only sold one wedding in their past, I guess they say that they are destination wedding specialist or safari specialist. There's a high competition right now in the industry, which really screams the need for a digital presence, a website that looks great, and reviews that really make you stand out because the competition is so high in 2020.
I do want to get into that. I know you want to cut to a commercial break in a minute here. Yep. But in the second half, I definitely want to touch on like a tangible, actual Facebook strategy because I know you've had some success.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good time to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. So stick around. We'll be right back.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Okay, this week's episode is brought to you by DigiTravel. Are you a travel professional that wants to get actionable tips and tricks about digital marketing from a team of experts? If this sounds like you, then head on over to @DigiTravel Canada on our Facebook page, like it, join the group, and we'll be happy to support you there. All right, and we are back with Mike and Jay. So before the break, we went into a little bit about Mike's background and how he got into the travel industry. We discussed a little bit about why use a travel agent today when it's so easy to just go online and book your own trip or your own hotel, as well as the current state of the travel industry. At this point, I know Jason really wants to go into the marketing side of things, and that was actually the next question. So for you, Mike, if you want to maybe explain for the listeners how you've marketed your business over the years, and I really want you to highlight, your biggest win that you've had in terms of marketing, like what was the best response you had, the greatest awareness you got, the biggest ROI, whatever that was, as well as your biggest disaster or something that didn't work out as well. And, if it was digital marketing, great. If it wasn't, that's also great. What was it exactly?
I would say the number one thing in terms of ROI, and this actually brings me back to when I did meet Jason a few years back. At that time, we were mainly focusing on Google advertising. That was the simple pay-per-click banner ads, remarketing banner ads, right on Google AdWords. That was our main form of getting leads across the nation. And at that time, when we first started off with Google advertising, it was great. We were getting leads at a great clip, at a low cost, relatively low competition. But over the years, once you started to have bigger corporations that, for example, Sunwing, they own Sunwing Vacations, they own Signature Weddings, they own Lux Destination Weddings. They own about 4 different companies. And at that time, all 4 companies were running ads at the same time. Wow. And they owned all 4 companies. Now, I was viewing it as somewhat of a monopoly. However, when you have larger corporations that own 4 different companies, all competing against each other and also competing against us, well, naturally that drives the cost per click way up. We're bidding against large corporations that are worth billions of dollars, and we're a boutique travel agency in Etobicoke, Toronto, where it was just not feasible to be able to go up against them on a daily basis. Now we were lucky enough to have our reviews the way they are now.
Mhm.
We were able to really stand out there, but the cost per click was way too high. And this was about the same time that Jason came to me.
And what did it get up to? So when you were really seeing a lot of success with your Google ads, what was the minimum cost per click or the average? And then what did it get up to when you're like, okay, we need to figure something else out?
Well, when things were going good, we were paying only a couple bucks per click, maybe
Yeah.
$1 or $2 a click.
For what keywords, like destination weddings?
Destination weddings, destination wedding, Mexico weddings, Jamaica weddings, you name it. We were getting leads at about, we were viewing, these were good leads. Like these were high intent leads that we were getting. We were able to close them quite easily. However, we were getting leads starting off about $5-6 a lead, maybe, which we viewed as pretty good. It was working for us. However, once that competition really started to come in, we were getting up to about $20-$30
Wow.
which was just not feasible. It didn't make sense. If we were maybe getting 1 or 2 leads a day, depending on what our budget was for that day, and you just saw the shift in the industry once that started to happen, which is why when Jason came to me and his main focus was social media marketing, that's what really drew me to him. Because at that time, I was like, listen, we have to find a way to not just rely on Google. We need to have other avenues here. Now, keep in mind, we do a lot of other types of advertising. We do a lot of like wedding shows that we do great at, like more traditional things. But in terms of digital, we really needed to reshape our focus. And I think this was at the time that Facebook was really starting to do Facebook ads, like they introduced Ads Manager. We were really able to do more prominent ads on Facebook. When did that start anyway with Facebook ads? When did
Facebook
they
ads
really
been
roll
around
that
for a
out?
bit, but I mean, we got into it back in like early 2016.
Yeah.
But it's evolved so much. And when we originally spoke, there was just a void that was definitely, there was an opportunity there because, I mean, if you're running Google ads to your website and you have that pixel installed, well, that's a very warm audience of people that are looking for destination weddings. So there's a massive opportunity to stay relevant and top of mind with those people if you get an ad in front of them on Facebook or Instagram. And you can really, it's not just about driving down that low cost per lead, but creating and manufacturing a quality lead, right? Especially for destination weddings, right? Because they're shopping around, and you don't want price. Price is usually not the biggest issue for people doing a destination wedding. I think it is having that trust with that advisor.
You would be surprised.
Oh yeah,
You would be surprised. Definitely, a lot of times it does come down to price. Even yesterday, I had to do a price match, and you don't love doing it. You don't like selling yourself short, but like I said earlier, competition right now, and sometimes you have to do it. And you have to keep in mind with something like a destination wedding, the brides and grooms are usually okay with pricing, but they have to keep their guests in mind too, and they have to make sure that when they're saying, "Hey guys," to their best friends and family, it's going to cost X amount for my wedding. You have to make sure that they're okay with it too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does. There's a big trust factor in
there's
it.
got to be that element of, hey, I've got about 50 people come to my destination wedding, and I trust Mike over Susan to manage my family and my friends because it's going to be a good process. I think that's a huge selling point is gaining that trust. And even if it is a little pricier, it's going to be a good experience for all of my guests.
Well, yeah, I mean that's really the only way that we're really able to compete in today's day and age, because you have companies like Sunwing now that are offering book your destination wedding directly through us online, and they're able to really undercut
Crazy deals.
So they're able to really undercut the traditional mom and pop travel agencies by selling directly to clients now. And yeah, like you said, that trust level is definitely what helps us stay relevant in today's day and age, because there's so much competition. So there definitely is a trust factor.
And I'm just thinking aloud here, but if I were you, I would be running some Facebook ads. It could be in the form of a short video introducing yourself, saying, "I'm Mike. I've booked over 100+ weddings in my lifetime. I'm super experienced. I know the ropes. I can get you good deals at XYZ hotels or destinations.
Mhm.
And from there, follow that up, retarget people that watch that video with a very specific ad of your face looking great on the Jamaican beach with a testimonial right beside your head.
Oh.
That ad off of people that watch the percentage
Yeah.
of that video, and then
Mhm.
get them over the call to action in that image ad is book a call with Mike,
Yeah.
and it goes straight to your calendar.
Definitely. I'm pretty sure. I think we actually did exactly that. But I'm pretty sure that we that was one of our first campaigns that we did a few years back when I first started working with Jason. Was that, like you said, the testimonials? It's a really big thing. So the second we're running an ad with a testimonial from an Anna and Steven's destination wedding, and you put a short little blurb of what they love most about working with Now Destinations, you're really able to capture potential other brides and grooms saying, "Oh wow, look at this great testimonial. Let's call these guys. They seem to know what they're doing. They have great reviews." So yeah, that's definitely a great route for a Facebook campaign.
I think the biggest challenge is, and you're comfortable with getting in front of the camera and doing that stuff,
Yeah.
but the biggest challenge for executing on a campaign like this is exactly that, the execution. People have all these excuses as to why they can't get in front of the camera. They have to do about 20 takes. It's not about that. It's just about looking at the camera, talking about yourself, why you got into the business. Because the whole purpose of that video is to build that authority and trust with your audience. It's not to get on the camera and be like, "Hey, we got discount flights to Jamaica next week or next month." That stuff, as enticing as it is, I really think honing in on that trust factor could really help drive or nurture those leads as they come to fruition.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's a big thing for sure.
Yeah, it's just the fear of getting in front of the camera and making content, right?
Just make content.
Just
You
make
know,
content.
it's once you do it once or twice, you kind of get over that fear factor,
Yeah.
and you're really able to do it moving forward. I think it's a matter of doing it the first couple times,
Yeah.
getting comfortable with it, and then you're okay from there.
Yeah.
Once you have that, that's when we start a campaign. We just want that asset. If you can sit there and give us a few 15-second clips of you talking about, could be talking about tips traveling to Jamaica or booking to Jamaica, or a travel advisory in a certain country, something that is just some sort of value that you could provide to your audience. That's some really good content.
I don't want to be talking about too many travel advisories though, and scaring people away. Because you know what, that's another
tactic.
It's a good tactic, but the problem in today's day and age is the media overblows these situations in these different destinations to the point where they don't have the full facts. They don't know exactly what happened in certain instances. A great example of that is this past year in the Dominican Republic, is Punta Cana specifically. There was multiple situations there where Americans were dying. Now, I think it was a clip of about 10 Americans died in 12 months.
Like murdered.
Well, that's the thing. There was a lot of speculation going around, and you had media outlets like CNN and the New York Times reporting on these things that they didn't even know the full information yet. There was no investigations on or anything like that. All they heard was, "Oh, there was tainted alcohol at these resorts, and that's how they died," or a certain representative at a hotel attacked a woman, and that is why she is suing the hotel now. Where a few months after all that happened, and full investigation by the FBI and all that stuff, finally came out and said, "Well, no, these were all natural causes. This couple died at this hotel, but they were also doing this and that." There's a lot more to the story that you don't initially hear, but what people naturally do is, "Oh, I'm not going to the Dominican Republic this year. I'm not booking my wedding in Punta Cana," because of the way the media spins things. So that could be a thing for a podcast for another day to talk about travel and the media.
Yeah.
But it's really important to try to get to the bottom of things as much as possible before you really make a decision and you say, "Oh, I'm not traveling there anymore," because now, you could probably get a really good cheap trip to the Dominican Republic now because they were hurting for 6 months. They're just trying to get people to come back there and gain that trust back. But it didn't help that,
It's interesting the angle that you take when you would talk to a potential client. Do you take the angle as the person providing that insight into the travel advisory and
Yeah.
talking about what you just said
Mhm.
there? Or do you take the angle and be like, hey, it's actually not as bad as you think? Because I feel if you take that approach, you come across as kind of like the sleazy used car salesman. Oh, the
Yeah.
car's fine. It's okay. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you don't want to be that guy.
Definitely. I mean, because we're getting information fed to us from the Dominican Tourism Board or these hotels saying, "Oh no, bring them back."
Yeah.
You really want to kind of take a hybrid approach. You don't want to come across as, like you said, a sleazy car salesman, because you want them to be comfortable with you. You want them to feel like you're telling them the truth.
Mhm.
So you want to kind of take a hybrid approach where you say, "Well, yeah, I agree. There are certain things that are happening here. However, we can look at different destinations for you, but I assure you that a lot of things are blown out of proportion in the media." So.
And here's the thing, like, if you paid attention to the media and made your decision based solely off of that, if you look through the reports over the last year and a half, I am almost willing to say that there's been something in the media about somebody dying or a murder or whatever it might be in all of those major destinations: Dominican, Mexico, Jamaica. I've heard it all over the
Yeah.
last year and a half. So if you're going solely based off of what you read,
Yeah.
then you're not going to go anywhere because all of these places have those issues.
And to build on that, because as soon as one person gets either attacked or even killed in a destination like Mexico,
Mhm.
it'll get blown out of proportion in the media. However, it's important to recognize the fact that it's not much. First of all, as long as you're not going to the wrong places in these destinations, just like here in Toronto,
Yeah.
any New York City, Chicago, as long as you're not going to the wrong necks of the woods,
Mhm.
you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's the people that tend to go off resort into the small villages in northern Mexico or the ghettos in Jamaica that tend to get into these problems. So as long as you're a safe person, you're staying on resort as much as you can. You're not going to find yourself into these situations. But like you said, things happen everywhere.
Yeah.
As long as you're smart about it and stay safe, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I went to Tel Aviv there at the end of last year, and it's funny because a week before there were missiles being thrown over Tel Aviv. So the minute and the next week when I was getting ready to go to my flight, I posted on Facebook and said, Tel Aviv bound, and I got flooded with a ton of comments being like, "Are you sure you should be going there? Link, link, link." Telling me all about the story going on there, right? And then when I got there and I talked to some of the people living in Tel Aviv, it's like, there's nothing wrong here, man.
Yeah.
They treat that the same way we treat a snowstorm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's the media. I mean, but at the same time, they do this for a reason, and that's to get traffic. They want those clicks.
Absolutely.
They want people going to their websites to read those reports. So they will put a misleading headline out there more times than not because they want people to be reading their content.
Right. So to circle it all back, we're saying that you would not advocate throwing that content on your own social media to be that advisor. Rather, just leave it off.
I would. It's a tough situation because you want to make sure you are looking out for your clients, but at the same time, you want to be a responsible person and reporting the facts straight. You want to wait until these investigations have concluded. You don't want to just make presumptions and say, "Oh yeah, oh no, all the alcohol in Dominican is tainted. Don't go there."
Just for the clicks.
Just for the clicks. So I mean, like you said, when you talk to your clients, you want to be precautionary, but you also want to be as transparent as possible too and say, listen, there could be problems. We can look at different locations. We won't say go to Dominican if they don't feel comfortable doing it. But it's a tough situation. You should be really taking a hybrid approach in that instance, I think.
Okay, perfect. So before we move on to the last couple of questions, I just want to go back to the original point, and that was, what's worked really well for you and what hasn't. So you talked a little bit about Google Ads being kind of where you saw a lot of success early on, which makes a whole lot of sense for a lot of different industries. And then, as you start to see your cost per click increase, that's when you started to look at other opportunities, which is how you got introduced to social media marketing. And to Jason, and that's just the course of everything. I mean, that will one day happen to social media as well. The more we see bigger brands getting onto these platforms, the more the costs are going to increase, and then a new platform will come out, or a new strategy or technique on the platform will come out, and the smaller guys will have to adjust and move in that direction. It's just the course of how it works. But Google still works, Facebook will still work, but it's just a changing nature of these platforms. So the question is, what have you tried, if anything at all, that really, really didn't work? Maybe it was a newspaper ad, or some sort of flyer that you sent out to local homes in and around your office. Was there anything that you tried that maybe didn't work out so well?
Epic fails.
Oh, that's from a destination wedding standpoint, I would say not really. Not really. Not too many epic fails because we never really did too much traditional advertising in terms of magazine ads or anything of that nature, to be honest with you. But I would say that different traditional advertisements, maybe like sending flyers out, things of that nature, those tend to not work as well in our industry,
Right.
because you really want to build on the fact that we have a great website. We want to do more digital marketing than anything else and lead people to our wonderful website that really captivates the audience. But in the past, maybe different types of Google campaigns didn't specifically work when we were targeting maybe like South Asian weddings, and those keywords tended to be really expensive, and the return was really low. Um, but I wouldn't say there was like too many epic fails. I'm
It's
pretty
really
good at
tough.
what I
I think
do.
it's
So.
tough. It's tough to say that like a flyer campaign or something like that is an epic fail, or a certain trade show that you attended is an epic fail, because it's a question mark, right? You got brand awareness with those flyers
Yeah.
at that trade show.
Yeah.
So maybe there wasn't that tangible ROI from it because somebody didn't book from a flyer or say, "Hey, look at this flyer sent me in here."
Yeah.
People don't do that, but it's really that big question mark. So I think it's tough to put that as an epic fail.
It's tough. But I will say one thing about that. When you look at costs to attend, for example, Toronto's bridal show, for example, great example.
Mhm.
You're paying to be there for the weekend in a little 10 by 10 booth. You're paying upwards of $4,000 for the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's a 3-day event, 2.5-day event that you're paying $3,000 to $4,000 to stand there the whole weekend, and you got 5 or 6 other competitors just down the aisle.
Mhm.
And when you take into account the costs for that show, staffing it for the weekend, setting up, taking down, it's a process. You take into the fact that, okay, that's $4,000 for 3 days. That's over my monthly budget for digital marketing.
Yeah.
And when I start to look at numbers and the leads that are coming in, and where we're getting these bookings from, it became hard for me to fathom spending that amount on a bridal show
Mhm.
if I can put that towards over a month of advertising on Facebook and Google, where I'm getting 5 to 10 leads every day, and it's like, oh well, I probably feel better. So, but what Jason's saying, it is good for branding.
Mhm.
The approach we take at trade shows is we like to partner up to offset costs. We like to partner up with tourism boards, hotel chains, to really help offset those costs, and view it as more of a branding opportunity in the industry rather than just trying to get as many bookings as possible. So as long as you're taking the right approach for different trade shows or different advertising campaigns, it remains very key to try to get different companies to partner and collaborate with those to help offset those costs.
You can do a lot of good damage on Facebook and Instagram with $4,000.
Yeah. That I mean, and when I first started, we were doing wedding shows, about six shows a year,
Mhm.
all over Ontario, and costs go up every year, and the ROI, like you were saying, it just wasn't there
Mhm.
to the point now where I think we might do one a year. Just the good one, like the Wedlock show in Toronto every January. That's a good one because it's a smaller event, a little bit more higher intent brides and grooms going to those events because you're paying $50 per person a ticket versus the bigger shows where you're letting everyone in for free. People are just kicking tires. So, but With that said, it is important to never neglect traditional advertising in terms of trade shows. You always want to have a little bit of both to really stay relevant as much as possible in the industry.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Thanks for sharing. So just as we get into the wrap of the show, I just want to kind of go into, I guess, the final formal question, and that's really just to get your thoughts on a little bit of the future of the industry, where you see the future going. There's a lot of change happening, obviously, with technology, not just on social media and other platforms like this, but with actual things that allow you to book or to experience a trip potentially before you even go there. So, for some of the other agents out there or business owners out there, how can they prepare to ensure they are still providing a unique and competitive service for their clients?
Well, in terms of providing a unique and competitive service, you want to make sure that you're trying to stay up to date as possible with the industry. But there is one thing that I am working on right now for my destination wedding segment, where it's essentially a platform where you're able to book your destination wedding directly with us,
Mm.
oversee things on a platform where you're able to see all the guests that are attending, all the information about that wedding that's happening, and in terms of where the industry is going over the next 10 years, I would say the great thing about destination weddings and niche travel is that you'll always need that human element behind it. You need that person overseeing the biggest day of your life, no matter what. That will never change. You will never trust a computer program to help plan your wedding.
Yeah.
Now, there is a lot of shift in the industry that a lot of hotel chains are starting to introduce, where you're able to build your actual wedding packages, your decor, your meals, your venues, all that directly on their websites, which is, I definitely see the industry going down that road a lot more in the future in terms of actually planning the specifics of your wedding with the hotel. But in terms of like the travel side of things, that will always probably remain. You need someone to talk to. You need that person overseeing things and talking to your guests over the phone or in person. That won't shift too much. So, but yeah, there's a lot of exciting things that are happening in the industry, and that build your own wedding platform. I am introducing one of those as well in the near future. I think that's going to be a lot more prevalent moving forward.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like you were talking about earlier, niching down. So maybe eventually it's not just a build your own wedding platform, it's also a build your own wellness trip or build your own whatever other niche that you're
Yeah.
focusing on, right?
Well, one other great thing that we do for all of our couples as well is we create their own personal wedding website,
Okay. Wow.
where you're able to send that link to
Yeah.
all of your guests. Put that on your save the dates or your invitations and say, hey, go to this link. This is our personal wedding website, and this will have all information about it, where we're going, how to join the group, different options, different rooming categories, all that information. You're going to be able to go in, join the RSVP for the wedding. So building on things like that, different platforms and websites like that, that's definitely going to be part of the industry moving forward. And that's another thing we are building is we're building our wellness retreat website as well, where people are going to be able to look at different retreats that we're offering, join certain ones, talk amongst other guests that are going on those retreats. And just make sure you're implementing a lot of technology into the vacations as well. It's really important.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming out today. That's all the questions I have. I really hope our audience, and I'm sure they did, get a lot of value out of this today, even if it's just the urge to book their next trip. But for those that would like to get in touch with you and maybe discuss anything that you brought up today in a little bit more detail, what's the best way that they can do that?
Well, they can definitely contact me probably through my website, nowdestinations.com or nowdestinationweddings.com, or send me an email, mike@nowdestinations.com. And also, joining that Digitravel platform where we'll be able to communicate with different travel agents in the industry, talk about the different trends that are going on and how we can help enhance the different digital platforms that these agencies need. So any of those platforms would definitely work.
We'll be able to we'll add all those links to the show notes as well.
In the description below.
Yeah. If you're definitely a travel professional and you're on Facebook, you definitely want to be in the Digital Marketing for Travel Professionals Facebook group. A ton of value in there.
Perfect. Yeah, and we would also love to hear from you as well. So please rate, subscribe the podcast. Follow us on social. We're at Merge Media, or visit our website, which is merged.ca. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email podcast@merged.ca as well. Okay, Mike, we end the podcast with the same question every time. Okay. And so now the question to you is, if you could choose one person, dead or alive, to represent your brand, who would it be and why?
Jason.
Oh, no.
There we go.
100%. Well, wait.
He did not need a boost in his ego.
Well,
You got
you
to
know
pick
what?
somebody
I'm
else.
just spitting facts. I would love. When it comes to Jason, now while he doesn't have the travel knowledge that I do, the passion for the marketing side of things is definitely something that I see on a daily basis with you. And I think that with my knowledge in travel, his expertise and passion with travel marketing and digital, we can definitely put together a great team. And it would definitely be Jason, because I see the entrepreneurial skills and the passion that he has. So it would definitely be Jason.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Wow,
That may be the one and only time somebody's going to answer me.
Lunch is on YouTube.
This might be the one and only time. So with that, let's wrap up. Again, thank you so much, Mike, for coming out, and we'll see you all next week.